All right, geometry, here's your arc length and sector area 14.6 homework. For this first one, we're finding the arc length, so we're going to go ahead and say length is equal to 120 over 360. Again, with arc length, we're finding a fraction of the circumference, and our radius is 6. So 120 over 360 is about a third. So that'd be 18 pi over 3, so that'd be 6 pi. Or no, sorry, 12 pi over 3, that'd be 4 pi is your answer. And if we're going nearest tenth, that would be about 12.6 centimeters. This diameter, they told us, is 24 centimeters. That means this all the way across is 24. So halfway across would be 12. That's our radius. Good to know. Let's go ahead and find the arc. So that length is 60 over 360. That's going to be 1/6 as a simplified fraction, times 2 pi times the radius, which is 12. So that's 1/6 times 24. 24 divided by 6 is 4. So again, 4 pi. And that would again be 12.6. And we'll just say units there. Oh, nope, it says centimeters. Centimeters. What about, so you can kind of see when our radius increases, so does our arc length, even if we have a smaller angle. What about number 3 here? It says length of the arc is 5 pi. This is one of those where they give us the answer. We'll see a little bit, these a little bit more later in this assignment as well. 5 pi, and then we can write the length formula on the other side. So 30 is given over 360 times 2 pi times the radius. Don't know what the radius is. This right here is just a number, right? 30 over 360 times 2 pi is just a number. I'll even tell you what that number is. Times 2 pi, that number is about 0.523. So all these guys multiplied together about 0.523. So I'm going to divide by about 0.523 on both sides, because I want to move all that stuff over so I can get the r by itself. So r is equal to 5 pi divided by that 0.523 number is about 30. My radius is 30 inches. The length of arc xy, so we want to say length is equal to 70 over 360 times 2 pi 10. My radius is 10 there. So 70 over 360 is going to be a little bit over 1/6 times 2 times 20, I should say. So it's about 3.9 pi or 12.2 centimeters. 3.9 pi or 12.2 centimeters, depending on if I want it in pi, in terms of pi, or in terms of just nearest tenth. What about this one? It's telling me the arc measure is 80 and the arc length is 88 pi. This is the same as the 2 questions ago, the same as this question here, where we're given the arc length. We need to write the arc length formula on the other side. So 80 over 360 and solve for the radius times 2 pi times the radius. Divide both sides by 80 over 360 times 2 pi. This might be a faster way of doing that. Copy, paste. I'm going to divide both sides by that there. So you can see I'm dividing both sides by 80 over 360 times 2 pi. I'm left with r is equal to 88 pi, and I'm going to divide that by 80 over 360 times 2 pi. And I'm going to get 198. 198. And that would be in units, I guess. Next one, circumference 36 pi is equal to the circumference formula, which is 2 pi r. Don't know what the radius is for now, so I'm just going to divide both sides by 2 pi. I'm left with the radius is equal to 18. Pi's cancel, 36 divided by 2 is 18. Find the length of an arc, so I'm going to say length is equal to, they gave me the central angle is 90 times 2 pi 18. So I got 90 over 360, that's about 1/4, and I got 36 pi. 36 divided by 4 is 9, so that's about 9 pi, or 28.27, 28.3. And that is units again. Okay, so either of these would be acceptable, unless it tells you nearest tenth, or unless it tells you in terms of pi. All right, the next one. Find the measure of the central angle of an arc if its length is 14 pi and it has a radius of 18. So 14 pi, that's a length. So length is equal to length, right? Length is equal to length formula. So I don't know what my angle measure it is. I'm going to call it n degrees over 360 times 2 pi r. What my radius is 18. So I'm going to divide both sides by 36 pi. 36 pi is just 2 times 18. That's where I got the 36 from. 14 over 36. 14 pi over 36 pi is just 0.39. Rounded is equal to n over 360. Multiply both sides by 360. And you get 140. So n degrees is 140. My central angle is 140 degrees. All right, sector area. Here we go. Area is equal to, not a length anymore, but an area, right? This is like a whole piece of the pizza, not just the crust. 90 over 360 times pi r squared. Remember, you're using a fraction of the area instead of the fraction of the circumference. We're going to use pi r squared instead of 2 pi r. Pi 16 squared. 16 squared is 256. So 256 divided by 4, because 90 over 360 is about a fourth, is 64 pi. So our answer is 64 pi, or what is 64 pi? 201.1, and that's in inches. The next one, my area is equal to 135 over 360 times pi r squared. So times pi 8 squared, so that's 64 pi. 135 over 360 is about, what is that, about 3/8. So I'm going to take 3/8, I'm going to multiply that by 64 to get 24 pi, or times pi, 75.4. And that's in meters squared. So I forgot to square my units on the last one. All my units should be squared when I'm working with an area, and in length, just the units. What about this one? Area is equal to 40, again, central angle over 360 times times pi r squared. Pi 18 squared. 18 squared is 324. I'm going to multiply that by 40 over 360. And that's about 36 pi. Or, so again, I'm just taking this number, multiplying it by that number, and then leaving the pi for 36 pi. Or, if I want the decimal form, I want 113.1 meters squared. Okay, so either of those would work. Again, I write the or because sometimes I ask for it in terms of pi. Sometimes I want it in nearest tenth. Okay, only a couple questions left here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions left. Oh, not too many. Area of a circle is 225 pi. Let's go ahead and write that down. What's the area of a circle? That's pi r squared. That's the rate. That's the formula, right? Pi r squared. So let's go ahead and divide both sides by pi. Those pi's are going to cancel. I'm left with 225 is equal to r squared. I know that r is equal to 15 then, because 15 squared is 225. That's not my answer, but I'm going to circle it anyway so I don't forget it. Find the area of the sector when the central angle is 45 degrees. So area is equal to 45 over 360 times pi, and then r squared was my r, it was 15. So that's going to be 45 over 360 times 225, it's about an eighth, is 28.125 pi. Or if I want that in nearest tenth form, I would multiply by pi on the top and the bottom, or multiply by pi, sorry. And I would get 88.4, and that would be in inches squared. All right, the next one gives me the area of the circle again, so kind of the same idea. We want to write down 144 pi is equal to pi r squared and solve for that again. Again, my pi's will cancel when I divide them off, and I think what multiplied by itself gives me 144, and that is 12. That's 12. So 12 is equal to r, or 12 is equal to r, yep. Let's go ahead and find the area of the sector then. So area of the sector is equal to 60 over 360 times pi r squared, and my radius is 12. So 12 squared is 144, so I'm going to go 60 over 360 times 144 gives me 24 pi, or 75.4. And that is in units squared, I suppose. Okay, next one. Radius of 12. Find the area of the sector. Central angle is 120. That's easy. 120 over 360 times pi 12 squared. So that's 120 over 360 in your calculator. Multiply that by 144 to get 48 pi. Or multiply that by pi. For the nearest tenth, it would be 150.8 for nearest tenth, and that's units squared. Next, radius of a circle is a sector area of 9 pi. So 9 pi, and that's a sector area, so I need to set that equal to a sector area formula. So 90, which is my central angle, over 360, times pi r squared. Don't know my radius, right? So I'm going to divide all this whole right side by 90 over 360 times pi, and I'm going to divide that side by 90 over 360 times pi, because I want to get that r, or that r squared for right now, by itself. So I'm going to, in my calculator, 9 pi, divide that by 90 over 360 times pi. I'm going to get 36 is equal to r squared. The right side, this whole thing came out to 36. And then that means 6 is my radius. Find the radius. Said central angle is 72. A sector has an area of 5 pi. Find the radius again. So 5 pi is equal to 72 over 360 times pi r squared. Same thing, gonna divide this whole side by 72 over 360 times pi. And then divide this side by 72 over 360 times pi. So 5 pi over 72 over 360 times pi. That gives me 25 is equal to r squared, which means r is 5 when I square both sides. Last one, find the measure of the central angle. So the area sector is 5 pi, area of the sector is 5 pi, equals n, don't know the central angle, over 360, times times pi r squared, pi 6 squared. So again, solving for n, got to move stuff over. Divide the right side by pi 6 squared and the left side by pi 6 squared, or 36 pi. So 5 pi divided by 36 pi is 1.37-ish, equals n over 360. Multiply the left and the right side by 360 in order to get n by itself. So multiplying left and right side by 360. So n would give you 493.5. And that's in units, or that's in angles, that's degrees. Make sure we have units there. Okay, so again, that's your sector area and arc length worksheet. Hopefully me going fast, but me going over all these helped you.